Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this November 24th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can catch my show every weekday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time. They also play the show at 11 a.m. at FirstAmendmentRadio.com, so go there. Or if you can't do that, go to my long-standing website at arcticbeacon.com. Boy, that's good, Greg. You still can spell. You know how many people can't spell that Arctic Beacon? They used to go, I can't find your website. And I say, well, how you spell Arctic? They go, A-R-T-I-C, Arctic. So then somebody said, well, why don't you buy that name too? And I said, no. If they can't spell it, then I don't want them looking at my website. Okay, Greg, it's Thanksgiving. Will you be cool? I wasn't even going to do a show today. And the reason is in the old days, I used to point out how all Christian holidays are essentially pagan. And we kind of adapt to that thinking by just ignoring the history of our holidays. And I remember in the old days, I'd ruin everybody's holiday, And there's not one that I didn't ruin. I mean, I ruined Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, and the rest of them. And I always kind of left Thanksgiving out. And the reason I left it out is because I didn't do many shows on Thanksgiving. Now, I know the least of our problems, folks, in this country is the political situation. Let's be clear. That's the least of our problems. Because when we look at that situation, the one thing I heard on the mainstream was, should people talk politics at the Thanksgiving dinner table? Well, I usually love to talk it because it's a joke, to be honest with you, and I get a big laugh out of it because when we think about it, we can be serious about it or we can look at it like I did for most of the time, and that was like it's a movie. And the movie continues. I did that whole series called the Greatest Off-Broadway Play Ever Produced in the History of Mankind, the Presidential Elections 2016, and pointed out we're just extras on the scene. We're in their movie. It's a really reality show. And when you look at it, the New World Order, or the Vatican New World Order, has a plan. And whatever they're doing now, we're not in control of that. You're not in their club. And so here's what I say to you on this Thanksgiving, What I woke up today and go, okay, what am I thankful for? And we do that all the time. I do that every day in a sense. I'm at least I'm breathing today, and I'm thankful that the New World Order hasn't decided to drop a nuclear bomb on San Diego today. I'm glad they're giving us some time to think about it. And we're always living with this kind of, when are they gonna, drop the last shoe? I'm not even worried about it anymore. Let the chips fall where they may. And if you haven't figured out that the political system in the world is controlled by a secret group of people, and their main headquarters in our country is over in New York, the Cardinal of New York, and the rest of the Jesuit centers all around this country. And if you don't think it's a Catholic country, just look at how they're organized here. And you'll start seeing it. I remember there's all these, they got their country map, the quadrants of Jesuit control. And I used to try to contact the heads of all these things and point out, what's your real purpose? And nobody believes it anyway. You know how many people out there, outside of the small group of people that listen to our show, actually get it? It's really amazing. Now, the reason I want to do this Thanksgiving show today is not to damper anybody's holiday. And in a sense, you can't blame Christians for what's been done in the past. And if you can carve out a little bit of happiness in these holidays, then, fine. And I do the same thing. I'm not sitting here, And I said for a number of years now, I don't even do these shows anymore on Christmas. I used to point out the pagan Christmas and what Valentine's Day was all about. And then for a number of years, I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. Let's just enjoy the day. Now, the reason I want to do this show, I said, well, why don't I point out again all of these holidays? And when I say the least of our problems is politics, the biggest problem we have is education. We have been given a raw deal. We haven't been told the truth. We are basically living this kind of, I was passing somebody today, and I started talking about, I must be one of the stupidest people in my family because, I have a niece that's in Berkeley Law School. I have a nephew who's in the Army. He's studying to be a doctor in Bethesda. And I was just joking, and I said, I must be the dumbest person in the family. And the girl pointed out that, education isn't always gathered in schools. And I agreed with her and gave him that old Mark Twain quote, don't let school stand in the way of a great education. But the point I'm trying to make on this holiday, the reason I want to do this show, is I want to tell you what I think is the major problem. That is, if you understand the history of some of these holidays, then you can kind of piece out, listen, I'm not worshiping these pagan holidays because I understand it, but I'm going to carve out my own little day of Thanksgiving or day of celebration. But you can't do that unless you understand it. If you blindly don't understand it, then what good is it? And I got reminded by an email sent to me by somebody who pointed out, Greg, you used to do this all the time. You used to tell us about the pagan influence of all these holidays. Why don't you do that anymore? Well, I explained that, and I'm paraphrasing from his email. So he says, I just wanted you to read what I found. And he sent me this article called Evil Holidays. And he said, why don't you do that? And I said, oh my goodness, I don't want to get back into this. But then I started thinking, what's a real big problem? Politics, all these things we talk about, they're not the biggest deal. They're not our problem at all. In fact, we have little control over them. And what's that old saying, don't try to change things you can't control. And then the other day, I'm thinking, going through this period of time, usually a bit of depression sits in holiday periods. Whether it be you think, well, I'm not with a number of people. For example, what am I doing today? I'm sitting alone with my 2 dogs, and I don't plan to change my day one bit. I'm not going to eat extra turkey. I'm going to eat what I feel like eating. And I'm going to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving when I see them on the street. And go about my day. Now, deep down inside, you go, wow, why can't I be? Well, I don't have a big family anymore. Most of them are are not living any longer. So my family's kind of small. And most of my friends have become internet friends. Because I do radio shows and people talk to me from all over the world, but I don't ever see them. So then I said, wow, are you lonely? I said, no, I'm not lonely. I feel good today. Now, the point I want to make is a couple days ago, I was feeling a little bit down about that whole story, that whole subject of how am I going to spend the holidays this year? How do I get through them? How many people go through that? Suicides go up during the holiday period. And the reason they go up is people have a hollowness in their heart. So there's a big problem there. And I believe it's because, we emphasize the wrong things. Think the wrong, whether Donald Trump ever sees office or whether Clinton ever tries to do the recount now in 3 states and whether Obama declares martial law, it's all been planned out. It's in their movie, like I told you. They've been writing this thing for years. All we're doing is, looking at it as a movie reviewer. So why worry about it? They're going to get their way no matter what. And the reason is we're under total control in this world by them. And they want even more. And if you think I'm kidding, wait till you see what happens in the next 100 years. I'm not going to be, maybe I'll look down and say, oh, wouldn't that be something? Look down and say, hey, I'm right. Come floating down and tell everybody or something. Or maybe you should leave a capsule. That's what I think everybody should do. You know how people, especially people that are always predicting the future, put it in one of those time capsules, bury it, put your name on it, and then people hundreds of years from now can go, hey, Joe Blow was correct. Look at he told us everything that's going to happen in the future. Well, my time capsule is going to be, I'm going to put the Bible in a time capsule and write on it, I told you so, or God told you so. That's probably the best time capsule because he predicts exactly what's going to happen. So those of you who understand that better than me have taught me that. So thank you. So that's one thing I'm thankful for. Those are important things, not whether Trump is in office. In fact, I don't really care. The guy's a billionaire. What good should I do thinking? Think about that. Why should I even think about him? What's he going to do? All he's going to do is take care of his little elite group. And wasn't it interesting? When did you say Trump was going to be president-elect? I knew it at the Al Smith dinner and this is done every year, but during presidential elections, the candidates sit on the left hand and right hand of the satanic cardinal of New York. And Hillary had her meeting with that cardinal a month ago, before the dinner, and Trump had his, I think either the day before or the day after. I said, that's the president. That's going to be the president-elect. He's getting his final marching orders. That's when I knew he was going to win. How did I know that? Because I understand a little bit about the Vatican-led New World Order, which I would hope every person in this world would know. And I said it the other day, if you're sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner and you bring this subject up, my God, you might as well put your head on the table and have it cut off just like the turkey. So anyway, that's not that important. So I'm back to this email. And he says, well, why don't you get back into that? I said, okay, I'll read this. And it's a very concise version of evil holidays, where they come from. And the point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to damper anybody's day. I'm just saying it's really interesting to know where these places come from. We all know it. And you can go to each of these holidays and read. You can read volumes and volumes. That doesn't seem to sink in. So this condensed version sent to me by this emailer who said, please don't tell me, give my name publicly, because I want to have a good meal. My family may get angry. And we go through that, oh my God. I have a cousin. I have a couple people from my family still alive, and I don't think she'll ever talk to me because of my stance on the Vatican. And, they say they will, but then they don't get back to you or something. So, it does isolate a few of your family members. And my hope is that they understand it. Now, the point I'm trying to make with this dinner, I think it's great that Christian organizations all over the world will give out free meals, and the people that don't have anything to eat today get a good meal. That's important. I don't need a good meal. I eat okay. It's not like I'm starving. So a good big meal today isn't going to mean anything to me. I think it does mean something. And I want to, my hat's off to a lot of these groups in our country who do that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I thought it'd be fun just to look back at some of these evil holidays and also to keep depression at a minimum. And I'll tell you, I have a very good cure for it. And God sometimes works in strange ways. But he cured mine this holiday season very quickly. Now, I was walking by the marina, and there's public bathrooms, things like that. And I've walked by these many times. Uh, and there's one, I'm walking by the the laundry room. There's a laundry room too. I'm walking by the laundry room, and this guy stops me and said, "Can you show me the door of the laundry room?" And I said, "Well, it's 7 o'clock and the guard isn't here. They don't open it till 8. He says, No. Where's the door? He says, "I'm blind." And he had this stick, the cane that blind people use. And I go, "Oh, boy, I'm sorry. It's right here. It's right here." And he said, "Thank you." And I walked away. And I wasn't even thinking in those terms. I should have been smart. He's got that stick. I didn't know. And I wasn't thinking in those terms. And he then opened the door, or he had the key, he said. I guess they gave him the key. And I was walking away. And I go, my God, these little things I'm thinking about today that I'm depressed about pale in comparison. Here's a guy, I'm thinking, did it happen in Iraq? Was he blind from birth? How long has it been? And he was younger than me. And I'm going, wow, I got nothing to worry about. This guy's he's smiling, getting through life. And I said to myself, this is my cure for the holidays. Now, I'm sure you understand what I mean by that, so I won't go any farther. But let me begin by saying I will read this email that was sent by a gentleman who doesn't want his name told so he can have a nice dinner with his family. And I thought it'd be good to look really quickly at, and what I said, the big problem we have is education. Our history has been stolen from us. Our education in schools, you might as well not even call it that. We don't get to the truth about anything. Our politics are on the surface something that most people, you never get to the real truth behind the drug dealings and Operation Gladio or things that are going on behind the scenes. All of us are being led by the nose by these people, so it's not that important. But the important thing is to understand it so you can live with it. And the same thing with these holidays. Now, I will give you my personal impression of each holiday, because I don't like them all. There's a couple I like. I got to live in the world. I was thinking even at one point to make up my own. But then again, who would follow that? I'd be sitting there alone going, okay, I'm celebrating. But anyway, evil holidays. So I'll read it to you. I don't want to damper your day. Many of them aren't today anyway. This is Thanksgiving Day, and everybody has a right to think about the things that are important to you and what you give thanks for. And really think about that question. What do you think? Are you thankful that you got a pair of shoes on your feet? Are you thankful? Was that the most important thing? What's the most important thing? I always like to say, I want to give one thing today that's more important. And you should do that every day. And that's between you and your Creator. So, Christian holidays, according to this man who sent me this, are ancient pagan feasts, okay, that were ushered in by the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, during the rule of Emperor Constantine. Constantine was a pagan sun worshiper who had a Christian experience that wanted to unite his empire, both Christian and pagan together. He achieved this by rewriting history and renaming pagan feasts with Christian names. Now, I don't know if he had a Christian experience or not. He probably was just thinking about, how can I manipulate these people so that we can I can benefit and my elite friends in Rome can benefit. Probably the truth. So let's start out with Valentine's Day. Pagans in Rome celebrated the evening of February 14th and 15th as an idolatrous festival in honor of Lupercus, the hunter of wolves. It was not until the reign of Pope Gelasius that the holiday became a Christian custom. As far back as 496, Pope Gelasius changed Lupercalia on February 15th to St. Valentine's Day on February 14th. The original St. Valentine was Nimrod, On this day in February, Semiramis, the mother of Tammuz, was said to have been purified and to have appeared for the first time in public with her son as the original mother and child. All right. Chris, we get a whole different view of St. Valentine and all this stuff. But I never liked Valentine's Day to begin with, and I've said this many times on my show. I don't know why. I never, even when I had a girlfriend, she would say, well, it's Valentine's Day. Maybe that's why I don't have a girlfriend now. I don't know. All right, a little bit of history there. How much time do I got in this half hour? Got about 3 or 4 minutes. And I want to get to Mother's and Father's Day, then Easter Sunday, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Sunday services. We got a lot to talk about on these evil holidays, where they come from in a nutshell. Now, you can go and probably find volumes on Valentine's Day, but go ahead. But I think that's enough to know that somehow this thing was transformed from the day of hunter, celebrating the hunter of wolves, into giving candy and hearts to your girlfriend. How'd that happen? Interesting. All right. Things we think about on holidays. So many people. I thought today, what's my remembrance of Thanksgiving? And it brought back when I was a kid, and I was the only child for like 10 years. We used to go to my uncle's house. We had a big family back then. I mean, it was huge. Uncles, aunts. We had a house in the country, on Lake Fox River, and everybody would go out there. And my grandfather was there. It's where I learned to fish. And huge family. Now where's everybody? Everybody's gone. Doesn't it remind you of when Mark Twain said he was going to, he called his death, he was born, with the comet and the Halley's Comet, and he died with the Halley's Comet. And in his biography, or autobiography, or in a movie made, and all the people that were around him, he says something like, before he dies, he says, all my friends are gone, and it's time to go. And something like that. But anyway, I was thinking back to those holidays. What Thanksgiving do I remember? I remember all my relatives and cousins, and we'd be messing around, doing all these crazy things. And of course, the meal was there, and we sometimes had, we had this huge table, and everybody was there, and they put the kids at the kids' table, stuff like that. And I remember vividly all my relatives and everything. And I can remember we'd watch the football games afterwards. And then everybody'd sit around and fall asleep because of tryptophan in the turkey. And then everybody go home. And then the big day, what do they call it? The shopping day on Friday. And back then when there was no internet, you had to go out. Now nobody goes anymore. They use the internet, so Black Friday is no longer Shopping Friday. I still prefer going into a store and buying stuff. I don't know about you. I know the millennials, boy, I'll tell you, they're the greatest internet shoppers. And pretty soon there won't be any stores. And everything done online. Why don't we celebrate Thanksgiving online? Just all turn on Skype and talk. Anyway, we'll be back right after these. We got about 3 minutes here, and then we'll be back on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it: to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal on this Thanksgiving Day. And like I said, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do a show today, and then this guy sends me this email and reminded me of some of the shows I did 10 years ago when I damper everybody's holiday by calling them pagan. And then I stopped doing it. And, you know, even today I feel like this. I say, look, in all of these days, it's really important to know, you know, what was the one thing I always told people on my radio show? If you belong to some kind of religion, if you belong to any kind of, Catholic, major religion, if you belong to a country, in which most of us are born into, or born in some country, it's important to understand what the hierarchy is all about. So with that same principle in mind, I think it's important to understand where these holidays came from, and even knowing that their roots and the people that control who form these holidays have a satanic purpose in mind, or a idea to worship some kind of sun culture. If we understand that, then we can also enjoy the holiday for what the real purpose is in your heart, what the real purpose is behind it. For example, when I mention Valentine's Day, if you really do love somebody, there's nothing wrong with giving somebody candy or presents. But if you don't understand the purpose, if you can't differentiate what they're doing and who these people are, I think then, to me, there's something missing in the person. So that's what's important to me. For example, Mother's Day. There's nothing wrong with showing your mother or is piecing out a day for her or your father. But where did it come from? And then if you'd make that differentiation, perhaps you can find a real meaning there for you and for your Creator and for God, between you and God and the people you love. So Mother's Day, listen to this one, dates back to ancient cultures in Greece and Rome. In both cultures, mother goddesses, Queen of Heaven, were worshipped during the springtime with religious festivals. The ancient Greeks paid tribute to the powerful goddess Rhea, the wife of Cronus, known as the Mother of Gods, Queen of Heaven. Similarly, evidence of three-day Roman festival in mid-March called Hilaria, to honor the Roman goddess Magna Mater, or Great Mother, dates back to 250 BC. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, the celebration of the Mother Church replaced the pagan tradition of honoring mythological goddesses. The fourth Sunday in Lent, Weeping for Tammuz, a 40-day fasting period before Easter, became known as Mothering Sunday. To show appreciation for their mothers, they often brought gifts or mothering cake. And over time, it began to coincide with the celebration of the Mother Church, which you know who that is. Mother's Day always falls on the second Sunday of May. Get that Sunday? And like so many other holidays rooted in pagan sun worship, including Father's Day, which always falls on the third Sunday of June, usually fall on the day named in honor of their most powerful god, the sun. So, let's say, hey, Dad, happy Father's Day, but listen, I'm not worshiping the sun here. I'm thanking God that you're my dad and you've been so great to me, but I'm not worshiping the sun gods, and I want you to know where this holiday came from, and I think we're going to separate it, right? Hey, what's wrong with that? If I just said that to my dad when he was alive, he'd have probably said, what the heck are you talking about? Okay, here's one of my favorite. I've ruined so many Easter Sundays in the past for people. But Easter, or Ishtar, also known by her biblical name Semiramis, later called the Queen of Heaven, and many, there's so much ISIS and all this kind of stuff. All these countries had their pagan goddesses with different names, many with the same meaning. Queen of Heaven was the widow of Nimrod and the mother of Tammuz. Easter is the bare-breasted pagan fertility goddess of the East. Legend has it that she came out of heaven in a giant egg, landing in the Euphrates River at sunrise on the first Sunday after vernal equinox, busted out and turned a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. So now we know why everybody goes hunting for these eggs. To honor this event, pagan sun worshippers will go out early in the morning and face to the east to watch their sun god arise over the horizon before having a mass, a sacrifice, in which the priest of Easter would sacrifice 3-month-old human infants and take the eggs of Easter and dye them in the blood of the sacrificed infants. Wow, something? I don't know. Next time Easter comes around, forget me. I'm not going to forget it exists. The blood red-colored Easter eggs would later hatch on December 25th. The same day her son Tammuz, the reincarnate sun god, would be born. How convenient. Easter married her son Tammuz, who was by legend the reincarnate sun god. Tammuz went pig hunting and was gored to death by a wild boar, and that is why pagans eat ham on Easter. Okay. Because Tammuz was killed when he was 40 years old, pagans fast one day for each of the years that he lived leading into Easter. The practice is known as weeping for Tammuz by pagans, but called Lent by Catholics. Yeah, I remember Lent. Let me tell you, I remember all these things. You know, what's that Ash Wednesday? I still see these pundits, like, they'll go on Fox News on Ash Wednesday, and they got ashes on their forehead. I remember when I was a kid, I had ashes on your forehead on Ash Wednesday, and you weren't supposed to wash it off. That's the same thing like when you're a Catholic. You learn when you take the host for the same time at communion, it goes to the top of your mouth, and you're not supposed to chew on it. That's a sin. You got to let it melt in your mouth. These are all the great things I remember about Catholicism. But anyway, Easter's something, isn't it? Okay. That used to be my favorite one anyway, to ruin people's days back then. But I'm not trying to do that. It's not Easter anyway, so. Then one of my least favorite of all of these pagan holidays, ever since I never liked it when I was a kid, to be honest with you. I don't know why. All Saints' Day was followed by All Souls' Day. Now we're talking about Halloween and November 2nd. So All Saints' Day was followed by All Souls' Day, November 2nd. Unless that was a Sunday, then it was November 3rd. So we're not too far removed from that. This was another Catholic adaptation of pagan festivals for the dead. Prayers for the dead are an integral part of the tradition. All Saints' Day services, I remember going to church on those when I was a kid, which are scheduled in Catholic churches on November 1 and then on the next Sunday. Halloween gets its name from the Catholic holiday. It is a hallowed evening, because it precedes All Hallows Day, thus Halloween. Halloween is a pagan holiday to honor the dead and evil spirits. We are warned not to take part in customs and traditions like this in the Scripture. Take heed. Now, the reason people take part in them is they don't know that. Now, if you know it, my question is, should you take part in Halloween? I'm going to leave that for others to answer, but it's just a thought. Now, take heed in the Scripture, and here's what it says in this translation that was sent to me. Oh, and by the way, the guy sends me this long email in a text form, and I had to track it down, and it was found at Nazarite.net. Okay. So, I'm reading off the text he sent me. This is Deuteronomy 12:30 through 31. Take heed to yourself that you not be ensnared to follow them. After that they are destroyed from before you, and that you not inquire after their deities, saying, how do these nations serve their deities? I will do likewise. You shall not do so to Yahweh your Elohim. For every abomination to Yahweh, which he hates, have they done to their deities. For even their sons and their daughters do they burn in the fire to their deities. Okay. Halloween is then a perfect example of what this passage is referring about. Now, I think we could get along without Halloween. We could get rid of it, couldn't we? Yeah. I mean, who needs it? I guess the companies who sell those costumes wouldn't like it. But Halloween is a perfect example of what this passage is referring about. Pagans served their gods by honoring the evil spirits on Halloween. They did this by dressing up like the evil spirits and giving offerings to the evil spirits. This is why candy is given out on Halloween, as offerings for the evil spirits. The phrase trick-or-treat was attributed to this practice because pagans believed the evil spirits would do something bad, trick them, a bad trick to them, if they did not leave an offering, treat for them. Okay, now, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Now Halloween just occurred, right? Just took place a little while ago. So now we move to the next one on the list. Of course, is the day of Thanksgiving today. Okay. Now, are we the only country that ever celebrated this? Now, there are some really interesting. There's somebody who wrote, I swear it must have been 30 pages, about all the different Thanksgiving ceremonies from ancient culture all the way through to modern times and all the countries that do it. But let's see this. This is a nice 3-paragraph kind of historical reference to Thanksgiving. The pagans in Rome celebrated their Thanksgiving in early October. The holiday was dedicated to the goddess of the harvest, Ceres, and the holiday was called Cerilia. The Catholic Church took over the pagan holiday, and it became well established in England, where some of the pagan customs and rituals for this day were observed long after the Roman Empire had disappeared. In England, the, quote, harvest home has been observed continuously for centuries. In our own hemisphere, among the Aztecs of Mexico, the harvest took on a grimmer aspect. Each year, a young girl, a representation of one of their gods, the goddess of the new corn, was beheaded. The Pawnees also sacrificed a girl. In a more temperate mood, the Cherokees of the American Southeast danced the green corn dance and began the new year at harvest's end. No wonder Chief Massasoit and his 90 braves felt right at home with the Pilgrim Fathers on that day in 1621. Obviously, the idea for this, quote, first Thanksgiving did not just pop into the mind of Governor Bradford, as most people believe. On the contrary, Thanksgiving in the guise of the pagan harvest festivals can be traced right back to the ancient Babylon and the worship of Semiramis. All right, now you can go delve into the history of Thanksgiving and how it was made into a holiday here, so I don't want to spend time doing that. And I don't think that'll ruin your meal, what I just said. Maybe the beheading part is not going to be brought up at the tables, but we do have beheadings going on today, don't we? Somewhere called Syria, Iraq, Iran, and thanks to our great leadership, they have emboldened these people to even do it more, and you can bet the Vatican's behind these terrorist groups. Now, coming to the forefront in the near future, in the next month or so, we will celebrate Christmas. Now, boy, I can remember doing so many shows on this, and why don't we just do it? Christmas was celebrated by pagan sun worshippers for thousands of years before the Messiah was even born. It all started during the building of the Tower of Babel. Nimrod supervised the operation and was called the sun god and worshipped as such. To end this worship, Nimrod's uncle Shem, Noah's eldest son, killed Nimrod and cut his body into small pieces, then scattered his body parts across the land. Ishtar, or Easter, also known by her biblical name Semiramis, was the widow of Nimrod. She was called the Queen of Heaven and claimed to have been impregnated by Nimrod through the rays of the sun, and later had a son by the name of Tammuz, who had a miraculous birth on December 25th. Just an aside, there's actually satanic people in this world who believe in this stuff. Man, let me tell you, they're imaginative, aren't they? They're all myths, but they really believe it's true, and they get some kind of evil power from worshiping this kind of stuff. It's incredible to me that we put our leadership in the hands of people like that. The top leaders of the religious sects like the Vatican and all this other stuff, the top leaders of the world, actually are involved in this. I mean, that's why things have gone to hell in a handbasket, don't you think? Now, pagans believed that Nimrod was reincarnated as Tammuz, and so Easter married her son Tammuz. Pagan sun worshippers celebrated the birthday of the reincarnate sun god on December 25th. Scripture is very clear that we are not to celebrate this particular holiday. Okay, this is what some strict people... Now, here's the deal. And am I wrong when I say this? And if I am, please let me know. Can you still celebrate it? Yes, I believe you can if you know this stuff and know you're not celebrating to worship this. Can you actually do that? I believe you can. But I think if you don't know this stuff, then you could fall prey. It's kind of like, those who don't see fall prey to the evildoers, right? Who don't understand. But I think if you understand this, you can still, in a sense, celebrate it, but you can do it in a way that really merits a celebration, celebrating those who you love and your Creator, correct? And even lending a helping hand to people and giving them meals and celebrating, even having a good time. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't understand it, then you may fall prey to it. Now, if I'm wrong, please let me know, because I'm just a mere mortal. And at times when you do radio, you say things sometimes, and you go back and you say, why did I say that? And some of them, you're right, some you're wrong. You got to live up to it. Okay, so this guy sends me this, Jeremiah 7:18, the children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead the dough, to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings to other deities, that they may provoke me to anger. Okay. The passage above is obviously referring to making Christians Christmas cookies and leaving those cookies and a glass of milk for Nimrod's widow, Easter, who was called the Queen of Heaven. The only difference is now these offerings are left for Santa. Some people say that's short for Satan himself. Let's move on and read another passage from Scripture. Okay, I'm going to leave that one. You can go check it out yourself, because I'm running out of time here and I want to get through a couple things. Let's see how much time I do have. I only got like 5 minutes, so I'm going to have to make this quick so I can end on the proper note, as they say. Okay, every sun god was born on December 25th. Amun-Ra, Horus, Mithra, Tammuz, and Zeus were born on the 25th. If there was one day that the Messiah was not born, it was December 25th. In fact, the scripture is quite clear that the Messiah was born at another time of year, and that's up for debate. And if you people have any, I've had people email me, it happened during this time. It was definitely not, according to scripture, the 25th. So can you really still worship his birth on that day if you understand this? Since we're not sure exactly the same day, of course. I don't see anything wrong with it if you understand this stuff. And you definitely say, listen, I'm not going to fall prey to this worshiping that the culture is telling me. I will worship and give thanks for the birth of Christ. And if you choose it to be December 25th, I don't see that it's anything wrong with it. But if you don't understand it, then there might be a problem. And that's the reason I bring it up. So when I first started doing this years ago, I was, I guess, more fundamentalist in a sense, where, it's better to just ignore these days. Then I got to a point where I just didn't want to talk about it. Now I'm, the last few years I felt, well, you still need to know this stuff, but isn't there some kind of way that you can understand and still enjoy the real meaning of this? Again, let me know what you think. Now, we get into a whole big deal here, and I only have 3 minutes, about Sunday services. And I can remember back years ago, I think it was maybe 2008, I got to know some Seventh-day Adventists really well, and we started talking about the Sabbath. And then I started saying, yes, we should not be worshiping on Sunday, and I would go to breakfast, and not with the Seventh-day, maybe one or two Seventh-day Adventists and some Catholics, and all of us are sitting around. We get into these discussions about the day of worship. And so here's what this gentleman sent me. He says this: early believers kept Saturday as the Sabbath until March 7, 321 CE, when Pope Constantine passed a law requiring believers to worship on Sunday, the day of pagan worship, the sun god. Believers will still kept Sunday as the Sabbath until another law was passed 11 years later. This law, signed into decree by Pope Constantine, forbid believers to worship on the Sabbath, and it was punishable by death by the Vatican, the Catholic Church. Many believers were burned to death by the Catholic Church for keeping the Sabbath. Now, since half my family was Jewish, Saturday was always the day, although we didn't practice this any longer. My family in Poland did. But Saturday was always a special day. So I don't have time to get into the whole idea of Sunday worship. I think the Vatican still wants to basically turn this day into a worship behind the scenes of the sun, not the worship of God. So think about that. And many of you will have ideas that are far, far more in depth than what I just said. I just wanted to bring it up. So anyway, I guess I got, 30 seconds here. And to kind of put this all in a nutshell, I hope I didn't ruin anybody's holidays to come. And that was not my intention. But I really do think the biggest problem we do have is education, understanding history, getting behind the scenes of really what's going on, really really looking deeply into many things that we talk about in this show. And it'll only serve you well, is my thought. Sometimes it's not easy to face a lot of these things. But I think you're better off if you do. Well, anyway, I'll leave you with that. Have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.